Welcome to A Creative Affair, and you're here with Len Metcalf and Brie Stockwell, and today we're going to talk about stealing like an artist. Uh, Both Brie and I are quite inspired by a book by Austin Kleon, where he proposes this idea that artists steal. What an interesting idea. I think that's quite fascinating. Brie, what do you think about that idea?
Well, when I first, yeah, stealing, do it. When I first saw this book, I think you told me about this book, didn't you? And by the way, we
Oh,
each have our little
probably.
copy. Yeah, we each have our little copy. It's like a little 6 by 6. Would you say that's 6 inches?
Yeah, it's a tiny little
I,
book.
yeah, it's small, but it's
Very
pretty
easy read.
super and interesting. I mean, he really wrote the book that he wanted to write without any rules. For sure. I wonder who he stole from to write this book. Okay. So at first I was like, steal like an artist? Because, when we're kids, we're taught that stealing is bad, right? So, maybe that's bad if you are stealing stuff. But I think the title is more meant to be a little like inflammatory.
Yes,
So,
provocative is the word that was
yeah,
coming to my
yeah,
mind as you were saying
right.
that. And I actually just had a flash of a moment when, oh my God, that's why he did it. Because I had major problems with the word steal. I really do. Like it triggers me like, stealing? Let's let's not go there. But
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So before all of you get so excited about how we're talking about stealing, this is actually more about how you can create work that is authentic to you and why you want to do things like steal. But we'll talk about it in using his terms a little bit and then using our terms a little bit as we do it. We don't actually know how this conversation is going to go. But I posted on my Insta story today this little quote right at the beginning from T.S. Eliot. It says, "Immature poets imitate." And we know what imitation is. It's an exact copy. Mature poets steal. Bad poets deface what they take, and good poets make it into something better, or at least something different. The good poet welds his theft into a whole of feeling which is unique, utterly different from that. From which it was torn. T.S. Eliot. Okay, so that's about poetry, but if you just insert any kind of art in there, same thing, right? Are those all those are interchangeable. I love that. Mature poets steal.
it's beautiful because, except for the word steal, it's really beautiful because it acknowledges that our art is a product of our experiences in life. And we take from absolutely all of our experiences, everything we see and do comes into us to make us who we are as a person that then comes back out through the artwork. So what he proposes really is to say, and this is what Eliot's proposing as well, like stop and acknowledge it. Like actually acknowledge that you're doing this as a process, and what would happen instead of just acknowledging it, you actually went out and actively thought about how can this thing that excites me actually influence me in my own art. It's really, really a beautiful concept. I really love the concept.
Yeah, I do too, besides the word steal. And I'm kind of okay with it now that I know what he's talking about.
That's right. I had a little moment then, Brie, when you said that, because when I realised he was provoking and pushing our buttons on purpose, I sort of I relaxed and let go.
It's
I
sometimes what
forgive
we
him
do,
now.
right? It's sometimes what we do. Like, wait a minute, what is that book about? And now we're reading
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
right? So there's obviously some titles. I'm probably just going to go through and like say some of the things that are interesting in here. But the first thing I want to point out is he says how to look at the world like an artist. And I really think that's what this is about. Like, as an artist and as a creative, how do we look at the world? Do we look at it differently than some other people? Or how can we gear our minds, or how can we focus our brains to seeing the world with a creative eye wherever we go? And I think this definitely to me resonates with me as like the key to all of it. Even if no matter what I'm doing, how can I look at the world like an artist? So, Len, how do you look at the world like an artist?
With wonderment,
Mm.
with the joy and the inquisitiveness of a child. Well, whether I can actually do that or not, but that's my goal. Like, I want to be present, and I want to see things for. Um, I would love to say for what they are, but I think it's much more deeply personal than that. That I'm seeing things for what they mean to me, and noticing things that excite me or interest me or catch my attention. So, uh, observing. Interesting that we use the word seeing in this, because we don't use the word feel like an artist. We don't use the word listen like an artist. The word see, and it's about observation. I know that I am very much this observer. I'm voyeuristic. I love being a fly on the wall. I have all these things about observing. If there's a huge conversation going on, I like to be sitting back and watching for a while and feeling it out before I'm diving in. It's so much about observation. So seeing, I think, is very much a part of uh, being an artist in my mind.
Yeah, that's seeing. Thank you. But I think the part that seeing is like really noticing and absorbing what we see, right? Like really taking it in internally. Now, if I was like a robot or something, I could keep a database of everything that I've seen that was inspiring or interesting as I've observed. But what I love that Austin does, or Mr. Kleon, I'm just going to call him Austin because I live in Austin and I like the name. He says, save your thefts for later. So he talks about keeping a swipe file. So, like, can you keep a file somewhere of some of the things that you have noticed, like quotes or my favorite thing to do is take a little snap on my phone and I put it in a folder called inspiration.
No, I have one of them. I do snap. That's
Right? I
exciting.
mean, we're photographers, so of course you're going to snap. And truthfully, almost everyone has a little smartphone that even if there's a quote that I see in a book, I'm snapping a picture of it. You can
Mm.
even they have these they have these little apps where you can make like a PDF file of the page. And I actually have an Evernote file where I keep, artistic inspiration. So he just says, keep a little swipe file of all of the things that you're passionate about. And what I love about this, he also says, you don't know when it's going to come up again. So you just collect these things that are inspiring to you, and then I really think that your artist brain will know when to pull it out, because
Mm.
if we've taken the time, I think, to collect it somewhere, somehow our brain knows that it exists there. Or when we want inspiration, it can work both ways. When we want inspiration, we can just go to that file and go, I think there's something in here that I need to see right now. And of course,
Mm.
none of that is made by us, right? Even nature, there's nothing unique or original. It's literally just things from everywhere, and we just gather them in a combination that's very personal to us.
I was at a workshop by a photographer, Peter Coulson, teaches. portrait photography. And he showed us inside his little folder on his computer called Inspirations. And in there were all these photographs of other people's work. And what he did is when he showed us there, he pulled out one of the photos and said, well, this was the inspiration. And it was a figure covered in cracked mud. And I love that as an inspiration. I've put that one in my folder too. And then he showed us into where he took that idea and took it somewhere else. Now, the idea of putting mud on someone and cracking it, or ceramic clay and cracking it, is not a new idea. Like, I've got a whole book here by Art Wolfe of full of incredible photographs done in Africa of people in clay with the clay cracking off their body. And so the idea that's in the folder is just a trigger to take us and explore with it. And the work that was created was unique in itself. And stealing is just a tiny little bit of the actual artwork. And this was really special to see, because I think this is an issue here, is when we're talking about stealing, we're talking about picking up these little fragments of ideas, the bit that really captures our attention. For him, it wasn't the composition in this particular case, although it could have been any number of things in that particular image, but he took one of those. And as Elliot was saying, you rebuild that into something that is uniquely your own and create something so special. I have these little folders everywhere. I have them in Instagram, I have them on my phone, I have them on my computer, I have them in diaries. And I think my book collection is also a part of this. And there's a drawer of prints that is also this place of collecting all of these things.
I can't wait to look through your book collection.
Well,
one
it'll
day.
only take, you'll have to come to Australia for quite a long time
I
to
know.
get through
Just
them.
pick your top 5.
There's a lovely couch here just for you.
Got
And you can sit there and read, and we can put on lovely music, and you'll be lost for a long time. We'll tell your husband that you're not coming back.
We've
got to have our fare properly.
He'll be devastated. Yes, make me a cuppa and and then hand me a book. I think that's such a good point that you made, that I think that you touched on. Actually, we're not taking what we're inspired by and turning directly into something that's our own. Right? I know we've talked before about copying, I think in our episode called Inspiration, and I think we mentioned this book, Steal Like an Artist, but we wanted to do a whole episode on it. We've wanted to do a whole episode for a while. Copying, and I think that quote in T.S. Eliot, from T.S. Eliot, it talks about it. He says, immature poets imitate. So to me, that's exactly copying. And that's not what we want to do to be able to create the work that's ours. We want to take the part of something that we're inspired by with a part of something else we're inspired by, and a part of something else we're inspired by, and maybe some new thoughts of ours, and mix it up to become something that's ours. Right. And, you're going to hear me turning the pages here, but he says here, oh, darn it.
I'll say something while you're looking.
Yeah. I want to find this one quote that he says. It's so good.
One of the things that he does do is he differentiates between good theft and bad theft. And he says good theft is about honoring the original, studying it, stealing from many, many people, crediting in them, this is my inspiration. And he uses words like transform and remix. And then he talks about bad theft. And bad theft is degrading, skimming through, just stealing from one person. If it's obvious to people that you're stealing, well, you're doing a terrible job, aren't you? And bad theft is plagiarism. And really, it's a copyright infringement, and there's ethical problems with bad theft. And plagiarizing is the word. So if you're plagiarizing someone, you're totally out. And that's why the word steal was triggering me personally because of that
Because it sounds
plagiarizing
like
issue.
yeah, because it sounds like direct copying and
Yeah, and it's not at all, is it?
no, an exact imitation, right? And he
Mm.
even says here, he says, shoot, this book is so full of little things. I have all kinds of things highlighted. He says we learn by copying, right? So we can learn by some direct imitation. Think of how much we do of that when we're in school. Maybe we're learning to write, and then we come up eventually with our own style as we get the mechanics of it. A couple of things that I personally love. He says you have to figure out who to copy.
And that's a really good question. Like, who do you
Right.
copy? And the answers are incredibly simple. The ones that inspire you. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you look at a whole lot of art and you go, oh, look at that. And the one that you go up to and it grabs your attention and pulls you, then
That's the one.
there you are. There's your answer. Yeah.
And he actually takes that a little bit further and he says, okay, so you've got the one, do a deep dive on the one. And
Mm.
then three people that person was inspired by or is somehow related to that artist or whoever. And then you go study them. You do this, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. And you just take a deep dive.
I check out who inspires my people that are my heroes, and then I go and study them as well. It's interesting because often it leads back to Bill Brandt, and so I'm quite like, oh, who's this person? Everyone keeps talking about them. I better go and find out who they are, and then I'm looking at their work, going, well, what is it that in the artwork that is actually inspiring them? And it's fantastic.
Yeah, I love that idea so much. So when you have that little that inspiration, that swipe file, then you can go in there when you have time and say, who do I want to study next? And I think when we start gathering up what's inspiring to us and we'll be able to like really understand. In fact, that actually takes me to this. It's like he says it's in the act of making things and doing our work that we figure out who we are, because we're going to start
Mm.
to see some connections with who we're inspired by and who we're stealing from, and who we're actually using to emulate in our own work. And I think that's really brilliant and wise, because it's so true that we
Mm.
figure out who we are in this whole process of actually stealing from other people. I also love this. He says, if we're free from the burden of trying to be completely original, because he sets the premise that there is really no originality. Everything's kind of already been done before, but we remix it up into something that's uniquely ours. You can tell me if you agree with that. But here's the rest. We can stop trying to make something out of nothing, and we can embrace influence instead of running away from it. I think we expend, if I was to try and make something out of nothing at this stage of where I am in art, then I would be spending a lot of energy on it and not a lot of time creating, if that makes sense. But
Mm.
if I can gather up inspiration and use that as some of the premise for doing my work and starting to really create work that's uniquely mine, then at that point, look at how much less energy that I've used, and I actually have more energy to focus on my creativity. I just think that's for me personally, that's such a great principle. Like, I always want more energy for creating. So what can I do to set myself up for that? And this is one of them. By not spending all of my energy trying to come up with the one original thing, maybe sometimes I do want to do that, but I just want to be mindful of it. So what do you
Mm.
think, Len? Is anything completely original?
The whole idea of creationism and that we keep growing and we keep coming up with new inventions. Of course, there's problems with that statement because we are, adding new words to our dictionary. We have to, there has to be a committee to figure out what word to leave out. So there is originality, and there definitely is. But we are, as artists, a sum of who we are and where we've come from as we explore those sort of things as we head along. I think one of the things to do also is to consider where we are on our artistic creative journeys, are we a beginner? Or are we an experienced master and really skilled at it and are fantastic with what we do? We would steal differently based uh, as a beginner. We don't know where to start so easily, and I did this. My hero was Peter Dombrovskis. As a teenager, I found one of his diaries in and out a bushwalking store. I bought it home, and it became my diary to work and write in. And I became obsessed with his work, and I'd stare at it and I'd look at other collections of landscape photographers, and no one else did it for me except him. And then when I went off to art school and someone finally put a large format camera in my hand, and I'd already finished color photography in my studies at that point, I immediately put color film in the thing. I turned the format to a portrait orientation, so it was vertical, and I wanted to be like him. And I studied what he said, and I went out and for a very long period, I mean years, 15 years or something, I photographed like him. And I also had other heroes that turned up along the way, like William Neal and his beautiful color ones. And I can actually nail and still describe particular photographs that really, really excited me. And I worked in the same sort of camera, the same format, the similar films, the same lights. Where are they going? Wilderness. I couldn't photograph in my backyard. I had to be in wilderness, and I had to be in World Heritage wilderness. Like the whole thing just kept going and going for years. And that copying and copying, and I wasn't copying their work, so I wasn't going to the same spot trying to find the same photograph, but I was interested in how they composed, and then what could I do with the same equipment, and what light excited them, and all those sort of things. So there's a lovely quote in this book, and it's by Yoji Yamamoto. I can't pronounce things, Brie. I've got no idea. But it says, start copying what you love. Copy, 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 copy. At the end of the copy, you will find yourself. Now, I did really beautiful work when I was, in my Peter Dombrovskis stage of my photography. And then after that, and I went somewhere else. Probably I went into my Michael Kenner stage next. After those copies, now I feel like I'm Len. And I think all of my work in that process was very much Len too. But I think that's just a lovely example uh, of how, at different stages in our development as an artist, how the copying and the stealing changes. And today it's, oh, that's an idea. So I really like stealing just tiny little ideas so that, it's totally innocuous where I got it from. And no one would know where I got that particular idea from anymore.
I love that. I mean, I think a lot of us go through this copying phase, and I do think it matters where you're at in your own creative journey. I mean, we talked about me painting, and literally all I'm going to do for Creative February, I don't know when I'll post this. We have multiple episodes recorded, and we just put them up as we feel like they make sense. So
We're random as we are people, aren't we, Brie?
I know. I was thinking, we recorded an episode on creative curiosity, and I don't know if it will go out before this or after this. We'll have to decide.
And it doesn't matter. As if it matters.
No, and it doesn't matter. It truly doesn't matter, because eventually they'll both be up, and then they'll complement each other, right? So
That's right. We'll have references to both of them.
yeah, for sure. So in this book, he doesn't. Oh, I don't think I finished my thought. That
You were looking for a page. Did you find it?
I did read that part. But I think at the beginning we do copy a lot. And I think it gets less. Here's what I think. At least for me, it feels like I'm copying less as I develop my own personal vision. But also, I don't know if that's because I'm copying less or because I've looked at my inspiration, the people who I'm inspired by so many times that it's like actually I've internalized all of it, you know? So I'm not on purpose copying, but I have internalized a lot of work. I mean, you and I, some people don't look at any work. And you and I, we look at a lot of work, right?
Mm. Well, that's got a special name, hasn't it?
Oh,
When you
yeah.
don't look at anyone else's work. We'll do an episode on that one day, maybe.
Should we invite Cole Thompson to come on and chat with us?
We could. Yes, we can
We
question him.
should. Okay, so if you're listening to this and you're a photographer, tell us if you want us to invite Cole Thompson on to chat with us about photographic celibacy. I
Fascinating.
have his email and I'll email him.
Maybe it's like Steal Like an Artist. It's a provocative way of describing something that's much more complicated than we imagine.
Well, I think what Cole is saying, and maybe actually we should now after this reach out to him. Put that on the list, Len. Uh, I think what he's saying is we do a lot of looking at other people's work, maybe feeling inspired by them, judging, comparing our work to their work. And we don't do enough of, I think this is what he's saying. And maybe we don't do enough of just discovering who we are. And when you can put all of that other stuff aside, then it might be easier to discover who you are. As a coach, I think it's harder to discover who you are when you're doing all the comparison part. So if you can get inspired and release the judgment that you have about where you feel you're at in your art, in your journey as an artist, you have more creative energy to explore who you are. Because listen, the judgment and all of that, those feelings, those bad feelings that come with it, those all take energy. And if we could release that, then we'll have more energy for actually doing the creating, which is
Mm.
amazing. So, did you write it down? Are we gonna?
Yeah, it's in my list now.
It's okay. We just put it on the
Or
list,
our
and
list.
then
Sorry.
yeah. It's fine. We always put stuff on the list, and then we decide later. So
That's right. It's brainstorming. We're not allowed to critique it. We just put it in there.
that's right.
And
It's
then
just
later we go, "Oh, I don't really feel like that today, Brie." And then we go, "Oh, that one. Yes, that one, that one, that one." It's jumping out at us.
I'm just telling you, if one person emails me, like takes the time to email me and says, yes, let's get Cole Thompson on, then I will do it.
He's a lovely man, and his work's
He
gorgeous too.
is.
So it'll be a really
Yeah.
interesting conversation.
Yeah, I really like him. Okay, so enough about Cole Thompson, how much we like him. And if John Barclay was listening to this, he'd be mad that we weren't talking about him because they're good friends. So some of the other things that Austin talks about, this Steal Like an Artist is really just the catalyst for discussing living an artistic life and
Mm,
using inspiration to, like we said before, create your own our authentic art. And so within that, he talks about some other small things like, and I think we've talked in an episode about this, like he talks about being bored. And he says creative people need time just to sit around and do nothing. And we just did an episode all about taking a break and having some fallow ground and doing nothing and releasing the pressure and just allowing yourself to come up with new ideas. So we should release this after that one.
uh, maybe we'll see how we
Maybe.
go. We'll
Right.
see how we go.
What else stood out to you in in some of the things that Austin said?
Um, well, one of the points that comes out, he says, is write the book you want to read. And this is a really special idea, I think, and one that sings quite specially for me is, and I use this for assessing my own work as well. Like I want my work to be enthralling to me, and it captures my attention and sucks me in, and I want to be looking at it. And that's why I have prints hanging around the wall, and a print viewing area where they're just sitting against the thing there, or I'm flipping through my phone searching for them and looking at them, creating work that I actually want to consume. I think this is a really beautiful idea about being an artist, is that we need to enjoy what we're doing, not as only as a process. So we actually enjoy going and making the art, but we enjoy the final product of it. And I spend so much time lecturing people, and I do lecture people. Stop worrying about what other people think of your work. And that's quite a strong bottom line. Like, make work not to win competitions or anything, but make work for you. Like, someone only yesterday had a black and white and a color photograph up and asking the audience, which one do you prefer? And
That was
it's a great
me.
way to. Oh, it was you, was it? Oh, no, it wasn't. I didn't see
I
it.
swear it was me. Go look. I actually said, what resonates with you? But people do this a lot because I
Oh, well,
had a
it's a
hard
way of
time.
increasing interaction and connection. So I
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
why it's
Not to,
important.
right. And not necessarily to like tweak the Instagram algorithm, but I genuinely wanted to hear. I don't know if it was me. Lots of people do this. So it could have been me.
So I asked this person and I said, which one is the one that you like the most? And
Oh,
and
I don't think that was
and
me.
eventually they just said, "Oh, thank you. By you asking that question forced me to make a decision." And they
Mm.
said, "Oh, I prefer the monochrome one." And I went, "Yes, see, monochrome is just so beautiful." And I also went on to explain why the majority of people that haven't got an art background will choose the color one, and that there's actually, there's would be a clear winner because of our biases and our thinking of things, particularly up to saturation a little bit. The most important part of that answer is which one grabbed you. And this is what Austin is saying. Write the book that you want to read. I think that's an incredibly beautiful thing. And it's one of the lessons, Brie, that has caught me up so many times in my life when I worry too much or think too much about what others think about my work. When I make it for myself, it's better. Like, there's no doubt about it. And I have absolutely zero question about this, that when I make it for my own indulgence, and to keep my own intention and in attention, it's better work. It might not be popular, but it is better. It's more engaging, it's more interesting, it's more stimulating. It captures my attention.
I agree. I have noticed this in my own work over the past at least year because I'm really trying to focus on that, which is photograph what is interesting to me. And I have gone places with people and just stood there, other photographers, and just stood there for a little while, quite a long while other people were snapping away and, doing all the crazy photography. And I'm like, I'm not quite feeling inspired and I don't have a problem with that right now. And I think that that's okay because I want to honor that feeling that I have of to do the work when I'm inspired and when I'm not really. I don't want to just make it because, you know. I'll loop us back around to this one spot in this book which I love, and he says this is a not so secret formula. He says if there was a secret formula for becoming known I would give it to you. But this isn't necessarily about becoming known. This is about doing good work, and he talks about how hard it is. Actually, there's no shortcuts. You want to practice often, that you are going to feel like maybe you're not getting there quite as quickly as you want to, and that's okay. This work takes time. This If you are invested in your art as a creative for the long haul, for the long term, then you just keep doing it every day and every day and every day, and it will increase your love of it. It will increase how good it gets. And it will, oh, there was one other thing I was going to say. You will get better. And I think that we'll make work that's authentic to us if you kind of follow some of these things, following what you're passionate about and inspired about versus just doing what you think everyone else wants to see from you. He also says, fail, get better. Then he also says this, now put your stuff on the internet. So actually, I was thinking about this a minute ago. I started a 365 project, which is like a photo a day for a year. And it kind of sounds a little trite and it kind of sounds like,
Not at all.
oh, right. But I decided I wasn't going to go out and photograph something every day. That doesn't seem doable for me. I'm not talking about an impossible goal here. I want to be able to complete this one, and I decided that I would have some ground rules or some guidelines for myself. And one of them is to go back through my work, look at what I'm inspired by, and pull out the work that I really want to work on, and then show it to the world. And I have to tell you, it feels really vulnerable to pull things out that I don't think are super like 100% perfect. And because I'm just sharing because I want to, but I'm having to really do some work on my brain about perfectionism and
Mm.
vulnerability and what other people are going to think about my stuff. I really feel like I've already done some of this work. I teach it in my creative confidence workshop, which is going on now. And I might do another one in April. But anyway, so I teach about this, but I'm like, well, I'm discovering that this is actually pushing me to do all this work again and discover more for myself. And I think that's really, really interesting. I think I'm going to see some interesting connections in my work too by sharing so often and immersing myself in my work every single day. It'll be really interesting.
Mm. And perfection really is the enemy of an artist.
Yeah,
I can't remind you that over and over enough that when we let go of this idea that it has to be perfect, we free ourselves, and it can become this crutch, and it can become a blocker. It can become a trigger. It gets in the way, and we really have to let it go. And I have to spend so much time encouraging people to let go about perfectionism. Like
totally.
perfectionism's for AI computer generated art and Instagram or something, but not for artists.
Have we done an episode about perfection?
I don't know. Have we?
I feel like this is something I want to talk about now.
Oh, okay. I better put that on our list, Brie.
Put it on the list because I think a lot of us deal with this perfection in art and what does that look like? Yeah, I don't think we have.
Okay, it's
And
on the list.
yeah, okay, so we'll pause the conversation on that for that episode. And I'll probably because there's one image in particular that I posted already. And as soon as I've looked at it a million times. And as soon as I posted it, I'm like, oh my goodness, there's something on that image that is out of place. Oh my goodness, I want to pull it down and change it. Like even now I'm like, I want to pull it down and change it. So anyway, that's just the perfectionist part and I'm not a perfectionist, but it's that part of me, like all of that thinking that's causing me like, what do I want to address in my own head about all
Can I
that?
ask you a little question? Like when you put it there, does it necessarily have to be finished? As this,
No.
why can't it just be a stage? In
Mm,
art, in printmaking particularly, we call it a state. And we actually do a plate. We pull a plate of a state of where it's at the moment, and we show people, or we sit it up and we look at it and we stare at it, and then we change it. I'm actually personally going through this stage of really darkening my art down and embracing Bill Brandt's in influence in my work after being told by someone else to have a look at his work, but embracing blacks,
mm.
really strong black in my work. So I'm reprocessing work with this new idea, like, I wonder what would happen if I did this to it. And I'm making totally new work again by revisiting stuff that I've already worked on. And it's not finished, it's just another state. And, in the long run, which one I might like, which one I put in a book, it doesn't matter. They're states, and it's a reiterative and also a revisionary and forwards, backwards sort of process. It doesn't have to finish either way.
That's really beautiful. I want to reiterate that on our episode about perfection.
Perfectionism.
So, okay. So I think
Mm.
we're at like 40 minutes or something. We've picked at this a
Oh.
lot.
Can I do one more?
Yeah, I just saw another one. Yeah, do one
Oh,
more.
well,
We might
let's
have
do
a
one
whole.
more each. Come on.
No, yeah, okay, one more each. One more each.
Okay,
Go
one
ahead.
more each. This one isn't so much about from the title of the book, but it's one of the gems in there. And I find this one incredible to think about, and it's sort of a little bit mind blowing. But he says,
Mm.
we're taking from this huge world of experiences and life and everything, and we're just pulling out. We're subtracting and getting rid of all of that other distraction and really narrowing down to something that's incredibly special. And if we think about it as instead of what am I trying to put in here, we could actually think about it the other way. And I think this is a really beautiful idea is, hey, Brie, what do we leave out as we're making our art? We're choosing what to remove and to push aside. And this focusing in and thinking about it as a subtractive process instead of an additive process. And I've actually brought that into my processing as well. Like I darken down my work, and then I add and bring up the bright bits afterwards. So this whole idea that there's only one way, and that we're working in an additive process, I find is worth turning on its head. Does that make sense? I hope, Brie.
Yeah, I think so. And I think a lot of things that people say you've got to do this are worth turning on their heads too. So,
Oh, yeah.
right, so
So
many
that one,
ideas. Even the steal like an artist, we could turn on its head, right? But we like the concept of it besides the word steal. Okay, here's mine. Ready? So this kind of goes into what I was saying the last time, which is share your work. And he says, once you put your work into the world, you have no control over the way people react to it. We don't know what they're going to think of it, what they're going to feel about it, what they're going to say about it. And then the next thing he says is keep a praise file. Come on, we want to see, this is my favorite thing. So in my confidence program, my small group coaching program, our very last week, and in fact, in our workshop, Len, that we're going to do, our very last week is kind of a celebration, and we're doing some culminating and that kind of stuff. But it is great to find evidence for ourselves of how we're going right. Once we've done all of this work, once we've put it all together, because he says even this is hard work. We're going to do a lot of practice, it's going to take a lot of energy. We're going to collect all the inspiration and put it all together, and we're going to do all this stuff. Why not keep a praise file? Why not have, when someone leaves you a really nice comment, put that in your stuff? That doesn't mean that you have to make it mean that your work is amazing or not, whatever, like, because you get to have the judgment over it. However, it's really nice when we're feeling like crap and we're forgetting. We're just in that space where we are having a low moment to be able to go back and look at all that stuff and remember, look at all of those words, compliments, maybe awards we've won, and remind ourselves, how far we've come already to that point, and kind of buoy ourselves up for the future. So,
mm,
anyway, go see how you are already going right and then keep track of it. I love that concept so, so much.
yes, I keep a praise file by keeping little testimonials. I screenshot beautiful comments.
Hmm.
I come back to them and read them over and over. I make note of who it is. So some people, their praise is higher up in the scale for me. Tim Parkin is one of my mates, but also a hero. His praise of my work I hold in the highest esteem because I know how much study he has done in the genre, and that he's someone that I trust. And we also talked about other people's work, and we agreed on what was good and bad. So if he says something, that goes to the top of the pile of praise, because he's actually someone that he would want to have on my little stamp, actually. We talked
Your
about
Square Squad?
my little squares bit. Yes,
I
exactly
need to
right.
make one of those. I think we should actually need to make one. Well, just in you saying that, I think maybe this is a good place to end our episode. And I want to say this. I was chatting with Mark Davis, and I had shared one of his posts that I thought was really lovely. And I told him how much I loved it. So I do this too. Like, I send it out, right? This is what social media is for. And he says, I've been following your Creative Affair podcast talks as well. I'm looking forward to more of them. Like, he really like is enjoying them. And I really loved that he took some time to say that. And really, truly, we hope you are all benefiting from these conversations and enjoying them. And I will use this as a time to say, let us know so we can put you in our praise file.
Mm.
And there's Momo, not the whole time. Did you all miss Momo?
And he's a good boy, and that's a bit of his praise for today.
That's right. Good job, Momo, for protecting the house.
Yes, he's on
All
guard
right.
dog duty this morning.
For sure. All right, everyone. That was our conversation about stealing like an artist. I just wanted to say that word steal one more time for you, Len, before we go.
Oh, yes. You're such a provocative person.
Yes.
You're stirring me up,
Steal.
trying to trigger me, et cetera, et cetera. But I really recommend this book. It's a beautiful little book. It's more than what the title suggests. He's actually got a few others, and another one is Publish Your Art, I think it's called, or something. I can't remember how he turns that into a provocative title, but it's about putting your work out there into the world as well. And there's a third one too. One of them's got a blue cover. I can remember that, and one's got a yellow cover. But we do highly recommend this book, and go and read it. It's a very
Yeah.
easy read. It's easy to pick up, and it's absolutely fantastic. I do a whole 1 hour presentation on this book in my photography school. I think it's
It is brilliant. Thanks, Len, for that. And we'll put a link to the book in the notes, and then any other things that we talked about. And then you can all wonder if we're going to have some conversations that we put in our idea file for the future. So, with that, I think we'll just say goodbye. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
bye.
Thank you for joining us in our creative affair. If you love the passion we bring to this creative content, please support the podcast by sharing with a friend, subscribing, and leaving us a review. Thanks. If you'd like to learn more about creative photography, visit lenmetcalf.com, where you can find links to Len's photography school, videos, and publications. He would love to invite you to sign up to his newsletter. To find out more about my work, including my photography and mentoring in my Creative Confidence group coaching program, visit creativemindscoach.com. See you next time.